Welcome to another series of Teens, Tools, and Hope. This is Judy Julin. I'm founder and CEO of WOW Learning Lab. And tonight, I'm so thrilled to have on my friends and wonderful specialists in the arena of addiction and social media usage and holistic solutions for parents and teens, Meg and Bruce Lupin. Tonight, it's Are Your Teens Captured by Social Media? We're going to be talking about holistic solutions to mental health addiction and social media usage in teens. Just a little bit about Meg. Certainly, she's a friend of mine, but she is an international speaker. She's a mentor and a coach and a workshop developer and a presenter, certainly a specialist in many, many fields and a practitioner of healing modalities. She works closely, and this is how I first met Meg, with children that are differently abled, youth, teens, families, and individuals around the world through personal and distance healing. And she uses multiple techniques and disciplines that blend both Eastern and Western modalities. She actually tailors it to the people that she's working with and the environment that she's working within. Some of those modalities, you might know of them, are Reiki, telepathy, Yuan method, bioenergetics, conscious systems, emotional freedom technique, fantastic, intuitive coaching, and Beamer, which I have had the pleasure of enjoying through Meg. She's experienced working with addictions and mental health issues, depression, anxiety, bipolar, autism, ADD, ADHD, cancer, stress, syndromes, cerebral palsy, and many other conditions. And that handsome man to her left is her husband, Bruce Lupin, and he is co-founder of the Entelechy Recovery Group. It's an addiction, intervention, and recovery support firm. He's a certified Arise interventionist. I can't wait to hear more about that. Has been involved in addiction interventions and recovery coaching for 30 years and in personal recovery for 40. He's an active member of the Association for Intervention Specialists. And tonight, for the first time, they are so generous and gracious. Both Meg and Bruce have offered some listeners tonight only to receive some discounts for their incredible services. So stay tuned. Right after the Q&A, we'll be passing out information on how to take advantage of that. Take it away, Meg and Bruce.
Well, thank you so much, Judy and Deb, for having us here. I'm really glad. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to talk about the social media issues that are faced by our children and really totally by society. According to research, there has been a significant increase in depressive symptoms and suicide related outcomes among adolescents since 2010, and it correlates with the rise of smartphones and social media use, which I found really interesting. I've had a lot of clients and parents who are looking for ways to, help their children who have suffered from this, I'm going to say, by cyberbullying, social anxiety, depression, and harmful content. What they're seeing. How do you control what they're seeing? What are they doing? This type of thing. And one of the biggest things is spending excessive amounts of time hiding, sneaking around. Some of the parents that have tried to do boundaries around it. The kids use this social media for escapism and all kinds of things. And related to that is gaming. I think you have to kind of segue to gaming also. So anyway, and a lot of this leads to addictive behavior. When your brain isn't working right, you've had exposure to EMF, and that's a whole nother thing around our smartphones and the screens and everything, screen usage. There's many things that can help with that. Some children need to have the social media for communication devices or other things, but You can use crystals. There's lists and lists of crystals that you can put near there. There's plants. You can use snake plants and, other English ivy, all kinds of plants that will also help to mitigate the energy coming off of the screens, which can really lead to some heavy duty anxiety. So anyway, the other thing that came through when I was thinking about how to, what to say and what things to talk about is the parents. If we're on our phones the whole time, if we're, engaged in this type of information, they're going to be, we're the biggest example. They might act like they don't want to follow us, but they're going to. and so for us, it's key to kind of practice what we preach. If we're saying, don't do it, then they can. And we had, our kids are older because we're old. But when we first got the smartphones, we had rules. And one of the rules was we had no TVs in bedrooms. We had no computers in bedrooms. There was all the computer usage had to be in the kitchen. And all cell phones were charged. They had a little bit separate part of the house in the bathroom. And before I went to bed, I always went down to check if the phones were still in there. High school time, they were pulling them out sometimes. And, oh, my friend broke up with the girlfriend, this and that. Put the phone back. You can help them tomorrow, this type of thing. Because it can be very, very, very addictive. And it can be with the best reason, they're trying to help somebody or whatever. But one day my son came down, I'll never forget this, and he looked horrible. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Not really. My friend broke up with his girlfriend, and I was trying to help him till 3 a.m. And I was like, "Busted, give me your phone." And, he was not happy. But the truth is, and the thing that I always try to remember and I tell parents is, we all made it without phones. Parents always say to me, "Oh, it's a safety thing. They have to have their phone. They have to call me when practice is over. They have to." No, I sat in my car up there waiting at 3 o'clock when I knew the practice was over or school was out or whatever it was. So, okay, maybe you can use that in extreme circumstances, but, anyway, I went through 9/11 in Washington, D.C. without my kids having a phone, and we all lived and went out and went to the schools and did whatever we had to do. And it was pretty scary and all of that. But, we did what we needed to do. So anyway, and then I think kind of the being able to talk to them about social media, and this depends on their age, but a lot, especially the girls, but the boys also, the girls are seeing a lot of this, I'm going to call it stick girl, beautiful blonde with the this and the that and all these things. And you have to have this and all the friends have this and, and explaining to them, this is not reality. I mean, I can tell you, I can make my life look pretty darn good on social media, and I'm having horrific things happen at my house. And this is what is going on out there. And these kids are, they don't understand. They think that the Kardashians and all these people are living the life of, amazingness, and they aren't, as we've seen. I'm just using a silly example, but anyway. And then I think now there's so many apps that track the phone and that can turn off the phone. You can have the phone not available during certain hours and all these wonderful things that, sometimes people are not aware of to help the child manage, because it's almost like dangling a carrot. Oh, here's a carrot, but you can't use it. You know how well that goes with kids, not very well. So, and then I think the other thing is about having them learn healthy coping skills. It's interesting. A lot of my boys, I have 3 boys, they're like 33, 30, and 27. they talk about being worried about the kids now. Like one of my sons is a water polo coach. He was saying that the kids are really soft. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, they're just so sensitive to everything. And this is being brought on by being bombarded by all this social media. I need to look right. I can't this and that. And, you know, what are you eating? And, you know, what is that? I'm not allowed to have that and all this. And so he was saying that, you know, one of the big things is really about empowering these kids and allowing them to be strengthened by just being who they are. You know, it's okay who you are.
I love that, Meg.
Yeah, it's really important, really important. And then the other thing I'm going to say about it is people don't realize, and I was told this, my 33-year-old was probably 5, and I went to this lady who was amazing, energetic, naturopathic lady, and she was telling my son, because I was just putting him in a Waldorf school, where they were like, no video games, no TV, no anything. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't understand. And she was talking about the fact that we need to digest, our brain needs to digest screen time and video games before we go to sleep, because our brain gets so activated and everything. So you have a lot of these kids with sleeping disorders. They can't sleep, or they sleep and then they wake up because they need to get back to the game. You know, their brain is telling them, and it's overstimulated. So anyway, that's an interesting thing. So for me, solution wise, I think one of the best things is teaching them and allowing them and introducing them to hobbies, to sports, to exercise routines, to being in nature, allowing them to really get in touch with their gifts. Because if you're operating with your gifts, then you're going to be a happy person. And we did that by exposing our kids to a ton of things. They all played different sports. They all played the same sports. They did physical activity. And it was funny. One of my sons he's a tech sales guy, and he called me the other day, and I could hear the meditation music in the background. So music is vital to help, you know, calm the system. Learning mindfulness, meditation, things like this will allow them to have other outlets and things to do, hobbies, whatever, and finding their giftedness through that, you know, through those types of things.
Meg, I have a question.
Yeah.
Should I wait with it, or
no, ask.
You know, because when you were saying that, it just sparked something within me, because we know of the rise. By the way, welcome everybody that's come on. We know the rise of the inundation of input and energies and technologies and content and media, so much, and yet. And we also know the rise of the people know about mindfulness. They know about meditation. They know about all these things. How would you say, because it still seems like, and you guys probably have the statistics, that depression and addiction is on the rise. Is it because we're that much more inundated by everything right now, because there's so much unrest in the world? And one last question kind of on top of that is, how can we, because you are such an energy-based healer, Meg, and how does that impact? How can we use those energy frequencies? Yes, I know you talked about sound and music, but you yourself say, even before we speak something, these thoughts that you parents hold are going to your kids. They're like sponges. So how would you suggest to parents that they monitor and are mindful of their thoughts before they even become words? So those are kind of two questions. One is the onslaught of the media today, and the other is the energetics of it. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, it was clear. So, and those are great, because they're all part of the things that I was going to be talking about. The the energy of the parents is key. The kids coming in today, and if this started, maybe 20 years ago or whatever, people started coming in a lot more empathic and energetically sensitive and connected. And so what happens is they wake up and look at a phone, and there's all these news, this, that, the other, and this is blowing up and that's happening and whatever. It's critical for the parents to hold the space and allow conversation about this. They might say, "Oh wow, did you hear about the shootings, la la la?" Yes, you know what I'm saying. And then you sit them down and talk through, and you are going to school, and you know what I'm saying, they have safeguards at our school. I was talking to Bruce, reminding Bruce about this thing. If the parents banded together more and whatever, when my kids were in this high school, there were some parents that were alarmed by the stuff going on, and they created this thing called safe homes, and you had to join it as a family. And when you join safe homes, that means if there was ever a party at your house, you were inviting anybody who was invited to call you and talk to you. And that meant you were also saying no alcohol, no drugs. Parents and multiple, people watching were going to be there. And I got to tell you, it was so wonderful to call a parent and do that. Well, it's the same thing with social media. If they're hanging out with kids that are just sitting there looking at their phone all the time, then they're going to talk, and it's going to create an intense amount of anxiety. We, back in our day, my mom would sit and turn the TV on the news, and we'd listen to the news for however many hour or 2 hours during our dinner and whatever. By the end of that, everybody's like, what is happening? I grew up in Washington, D.C., so it was all the political news, and I didn't need that. So it's about being aware of what you're thinking, what you're saying, and allowing ourselves to be good examples, and allowing ourselves to not be afraid of the conversation, and allow ourselves to be supportive in whatever way that looks like. And then the other thing I'm going to say about it is, if we find ourselves with these sensitive, energetic children, we send them to people like me or whatever. There's people all over the place that, I can't tell you how many kids I trained in Reiki. I have one kid that's like making a big splash as a star doing rapping in LA. I got another kid who owns property in Hawaii, and he's doing all this great stuff. And another, so it's happening, because they got their gifts. They were talked about these gifts and talked about techniques for, keeping themselves calm and keeping themselves balanced and harmonized. And where do you get these tools? I had a girl call me today that I've been working with since she was 12. She was a cutter, all this stuff. Now she's got a big job and she's doing amazing, and it's because she's learned how to manage her anxiety, and, with these, going to yoga and, other techniques, and food, food. I can't tell you enough about food, but, I know a lot of people already know that. I have kids that are affected by kale. If you don't know what their allergies are, and you can watch by their behavior, I know if one of my kids ate a donut, within an hour, he's going to be out of his darn mind. Gluten and dairy sensitive, and sugar, so crazy combination for him. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Judy, was, and Reverend Leon, seeing you there, wonderful, hello, was the fact of people getting exposed to biofeedback video games and biofeedback, other things that these kids know. When I got this one, I forget what it was called, the Divine something, it was the coolest thing ever, because they got to put sensors on their fingers, and there's a little ball, and they had to make the ball go down the path and light a fire and do all these things. And by just calming their breath down and being balanced and centered, this happens.
I
And
remember that game, Meg. I think that was Deepak Chopra's game. He came out with that when I was just left his center. I think it was back in like 2004.
Journey to the Wild Divine.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened to it, but it was wonderful when it came out.
Yeah, and the other thing is I've had one of my sons went to a therapist that specialized in biofeedback. And there's all kinds of things where they put little sensors on, and it just helps you to learn how to regulate yourself. So there's lots of support, I'm going to say, from the different types of modalities, I'm going to say, and ways to empower the kids. The other thing I wanted to say was about encouraging their creative outlets. You have people that say, I can't draw a stick person. Okay, well, guess what? I had a kid who couldn't draw a stick person. He was making unbelievable ceramic, statues and things in a class he just happened to be taking, and he loved it. I had another one who did stuff with woodworking. He had a woodworking class, so encouraging those types of things, will also allow them. And I can't also say enough about the outdoor stuff. When you have outdoor activities, and Bruce used to take the boys on a boys' weekend out in the wilderness. Oh my God, they'd come home like different kids. Because there was no phone, there's nothing out there except nature. They get grounded, balanced, harmonized, and it just feels so good. The other thing I want to say is, allowing kids to experience camp. Camp when I was young used to be a big thing. Then it kind of died out. I know one of my sons went to Reverend Leon's camp and loved the heck out of it and came back with this great video, and he was so proud that he was in it, but these things for the kids of experiencing something different, in an environment of support and love and peace is really what they're looking for, and I think we can provide it in the homes. So the other, I think I may have mentioned about the other thing, last thing I wanted to mention was about rhythm. When there's a rhythm in the household, it's also very good for safety and stability. And I think if everybody's getting up at different times and things are happening and, all this, it promotes, anxiety, sloppiness in the house, stuff everywhere and all this, same thing. So it's kind of a feng shui thing a little bit, and certain kids are more sensitive than others. I have two sensitive to that, and that's the one that left everything everywhere, and Bruce is neater than I am, so we were always got stuff going on, but it helps for the stability, to allow people to feel like, I know we're having dinner at 6. And again, this is pie in the sky. If you've got team sports and other things, you balance and roll with it. Because we always had all three in a different sport and things going on, but we tried to make sure we had meals together, as much as we could. So that's about it for my little thing on the digital stuff. I wanted to mention also that, the aromatherapy.
I think you're frozen a little bit, Meg.
Social media and stuff.
Can you repeat that, Meg? You were frozen.
Okay, yeah. So aromatherapy can also help the kids not pick up a lot of the anxiety from the social media. It can make them calmer in spirit anyway. But again, I think communication, if you get bothered by people, let me know. I literally, and I'm not making this up, what night was it? Saturday. My boys had some friends over from high school, and my son told me that he was bullied in high school by one of his teachers all the time. And
Wow.
we were shocked. He never told us.
Wow.
And we're like, what happened? And they said, oh yeah, like they said, oh, they were talking about mythology, and they said somebody was a one-eyed giant, like Spencer, and they said his name. And I was like mortified. And I just said to him, why didn't you tell us? And he goes, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Go up and fight my teacher? Go up and tell my teacher? And I said, I would have gone up and told your teacher there. But he didn't want to be embarrassed, and he didn't want to be picked on worse. So I think that that's a big energy of having conversation. How are things at school? What are your teachers like? And you know what I'm saying. It's a little bit off topic of the social media, but the same thing happens on social media. People, um, communicate through that and make assumptions. And my boys call it trolling. Somebody puts up a nice
Mhm.
picture of themselves, and the trolls just start saying horrible things about it. And so they just know those are trollers, and I don't care what they say. So if we teach them things like that, and they know this is stuff that goes on in social media, there's just people that troll around looking to be nasty. I don't know why. I don't know what good they get from it, but I'm not going to pay attention to it, and it's not real. You know, it's not for me, and I'm not going to participate. So, anyway, that's about it for me. I know Bruce has some big important messages about the addiction piece because it can be also tied in.
Sure.
So,
Do anybody have questions for Meg right now before we move on to Bruce? You can just kind of speak up and speak in. And I loved it, Meg, by the way. And I love you, and I love your words, and they're so authentic and so healing and real. So anybody have questions? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, well, we'll come back to that at the end. And take it away, Bruce Lupin.
Well, thank you. And thanks, Judy and Deb, for having us. And good to see Reverend Leon over there. Yeah, no, I think Meg's got a lot to say, and does beautiful work with families and children, and adolescents. I tend to be, I'm kind of Meg gets to do more of the front end work when things are, having issues and trying to steer people in the right direction, and um, trying to unify the family a little bit more and bring out the gifts in the child. I tend to get called in more when things have like completely fallen apart and there's like a real breakdown in the system and there's a bit more of a crisis going on. So I'm usually called by families when they feel like they've done everything they can do. They don't know what else to do, and they feel like they need somebody to bring somebody in to help uh, move things forward for their loved one. And we work with adolescents and adults both, and we do work with addiction and mental health issues. I'm not a big research guy and data guy. Meg does a lot of that, but I think we know there's been a big connection between social media use and anxiety and depression in adolescents for sure. And it seems to be trending worse. I mean, I'm getting called more with adolescents than I ever have before. It used to be much more of the adult population. It seems to be trending more towards younger kids, teenage years, where things are getting out of control in the family, and it's for a lot of different reasons. I think Meg mentioned sort of unifying the family, and I think it's a very difficult thing. Even when we had children, we had to unify around what are good boundaries, what's reasonable. We didn't want to be unreasonable, but we also wanted to do what we felt was right for our kids and put boundaries in place that that they weren't really ready to do yet or didn't understand, or weren't able to do for themselves yet. Um, and so hopefully we set some guardrails up for them. Didn't do it perfectly, obviously, but this is one of the big things I think that um, that we see, especially with children and adolescents, that there's a real disconnect in the family between the parents about how, what is reasonable around social media use, around relationships, and all the things that we deal with our children. And so the children can feel that, the kids feel that sort of, and then they're playing mom against dad, and all, and it just really
Mhm.
progresses and gets worse over time as they get older. It's very difficult. I think, a good portion of families that call me are divorced. And I think it's even hard. It's hard enough when you're married to kind of put together a unified front, you know, um, about how we're going to parent, what kind of parameters we put down, what kind of boundaries. I think it's even harder when you're not living in the same space. And so I see a lot of that. It's like, oh, Susie goes to dad's and she can do whatever she wants. She's up till 3 in the morning, on social media and sleeps till noon. And then, dad says, well, mom doesn't do this. And so so a big piece of what we do um, is really trying to unify the family around and put a plan together that we can all agree to and, um, and, um, and see where we can go from there. Um, and obviously, and Meg was just reminding me, to make sure that I mentioned that, sort of wrapped around all of this, as we see things kind of fall apart, um, this lack of unification, I would say, is that we start seeing, experimentation with drugs and alcohol, and then that starts to spin out of control around it. Um, I would, I say depression and anxiety is epidemic in our country. There's no doubt about it. Um, and for youth and adults, is people are living with an incredible amount of it, and some people can cope with it better than others. COVID certainly made things worse and pushed a lot of people over the edge, and including families and adolescents, where there was a lot more time at home with what they felt like there's nothing to do, and so they're just like focused on what is in front of them, whether it's TV or social media, and just get pretty much addicted to it, and not doing anything on the outside. So yeah, that's I get called in when things are not in a good situation and the family's not sure what to do to help. Um, Many times, as an interventionist, there are many ways to intervene. Um, Judy, you asked about Arise intervention. I'm a board certified interventionist and an Arise interventionist. Arise is a methodology where it's really what we call kind of an invitational method, um, where we try to, we always look at this as a family system. So families call us and say, we've got a problem with so and so in the family. Well, we understand that, Billy's got issues. He's isolated. And many times this is what we see. We see a lot of isolation. We see, the grades have gone down, schools suffering, relationships inside the family and outside are suffering. They have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and but we try to focus the family. It's not just about Billy; it is about the whole family system, and we all need to sort of look at it that way. And everybody needs to take responsibility for themselves, and people have to do their work. There's work to be done by everybody in the family, not just about what seems to be the focal point. Because a lot of what's going on there is a result of the family system dynamic. So that's a big piece of the work that we do. It's a little bit different. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. It's a little bit different with adolescents than it is with adults, because adults have more rights and freedom to choose to do things, and kids do too. The parents don't want to force people to do things that they don't want to have to do. So we try to take everything out of based in love and compassion. Um, it's really what does work, because
Hello?
because
Yes.
whether it's a 16-year-old, or a 40-year-old, that person wants to live a purposeful and meaningful life, wants to be connected to their family and in good relationship, and hopefully bring forward what they came to this world to bring forward. And so what the work that we do with families is really based in a way that is to reach that part of that person. So when we get called, there's usually a lot of resistance. So I don't get called if somebody says, "Hey, I have problems and I'm willing to work on it. You know, I'm willing to do some work around this. Mom and dad, I see the problem. I'm willing." It's not like that. It's like they are fully resistant to do anything, to get help. It's gone to the point where they're very, very defiant. And so we have to figure out how, a good way to reach them and reach the part of them that wants to live a better life. And we do deal with a lot of drug and alcohol issues in adolescence. Sometimes they have to go to treatment, some level of treatment, whether it's residential or outpatient treatment, therapy of some kind, and the family would participate in that too. So some families think, oh, can we just send them off to Utah to some wilderness retreat, and have them, it doesn't look like that. It's something that we all do together. So I do see a lot of the work that we do in adolescents is very bundled, and there's a very big social media component to it. I mean, I'm working with a family now where it's a 17-year-old, well, he's about to be 17, and he's up all night quite often. And there's nobody really holding any boundaries. And the kids know this. This is the problem. So the family needs to get unified around the plan and around boundaries first, and then we start to step in and start to put those in place, about what's healthy and what's not. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. I thought Meg covered probably the most important stuff about some of the holistic methods, but yeah, hopefully, I always say, when families call and they kind of tell us a story, these are the things that are going on, the things that have happened. Sometimes there's traumas that have happened, levels of abuse, in the family. The first thing I do, I usually say, have you had a heart to heart? Have you sat down and talked with them yet? Have you really, just not in an angry way? Because many times there's so much emotion flying. They've done the yelling and the screaming and the you can't do this and all, but just have a heart to heart and see where that goes. Sometimes they say, no, we really haven't done that yet. Well, I usually say, why don't you try that first? Kind of take this approach. If that doesn't work, give me a call back. Because, we have to try everything that we can. And I do know for sure that yelling, blaming, shaming, none of that works. And unfortunately, too often we see that's been the approach, because they're not quite sure, what to do and how to come from a place that's based in love and compassion, yet hold boundaries at the same time. We don't have to get angry or punish to hold a boundary.
That's a really key component, Bruce. And this is a little bit of a digression, but I think it's so central to the two of you. There are times in society these days that we see the seeming dissolution of the family, and the strong male component and the strong female, the mother and the father. And of course, you're my friends. And to see a strong male and female mother and father and setting boundaries, committed to the family unit, because the family unit is so important in our world, and there are systems at play that want to divide the family and not have that strong male presence, strong female presence. So that is kind of an underlying theme that I want to just applaud and celebrate with the two of you. And also, I think the two of you together with you coming in, Bruce, when things are really tough, and you need that. And then you've got Meg there with the work that she does that is, of course, very practical, but at the same time very energetic and soft, and it's the behind the scenes. And I think the two of you really epitomize what's needed in a comprehensive, holistic, as we talked about tonight, holistic approach to healthy living for families and adults. Adolescents. So thank you, Leon. I know this is a subject near and dear to your heart. If you would please interject. You're on mute right now, Leon.
Good evening, everybody. Oh my God, you guys have me in it. This is great. Hey, Meg. Hey, Bruce, and everyone. I just want to, first of all, I just want to commend Judy for the work that she's doing and she continues to do.
Thank you.
And we just need, and I know you've heard it before, we need more programs like this. But I want to just talk about partnering and going forth in the future and how we can partner with Meg and Bruce and partner with all of you out there who have the same concerns. I just feel for parents these days. And my thing at this point is to see how not only we can partner, but we can create more social media initiatives, social media along with youth, because youth are looking for that too. They're looking not only to us for answers, but they're also looking to see what programs are available that I can get answers. Because if you feel you're lost in all the maze of things that's going on, so are our youth. They are totally lost. So I think it's important for us to support Judy and Wow Learning Lab and all those things that we're doing. It's absolutely vital. And so I don't know if it addresses the question, Judy, but I'm excited about what's going on. But I think that it's time for us to partner more and to begin to look at those things that are attractive in the social media arena and see how we can begin to infuse our programs in another way, in a different way, and work and partner with our children, partner with youth out there who are looking to come out from amongst them. I'm going to say it that way because they are. They see it's not working. They see it. And another thing that I want to also have us take a look at with the emergence of AI, it's important that we get on top of that. It's important that we get on top of that. And I have a young man right now who I raised at Agape. He has he created an AI project that is enormous. And I want to sit down with him and see how we can begin to use AI to help parents, to assist youth, to put this technology to work where youth will be able to be assisted by artificial intelligence.
Oh.
And as opposed to looking at it as our enemy. And again, I don't want us to even look at, so I want to begin to say, social media, I want us as parents to say, social media is our friend. Now, how do we begin to partner with it? And so, because the train has left the station, the train has left the station, but let's see how we can begin to partner with it. And that's what I want to share. And I just want to continue to encourage everybody in what you're doing, but let's partner more. Let's partner with Judy. Judy has so many great ideas. Let's begin to, and I know Judy's going to be unleashing them and introducing them, but let's see how we can get together. Let's see how we can get together with our youth, not a top-down situation, but with our youth and say, what do you, because they're closer to it. So let's pick their brains and let's start to partner together and also with social media and now AI. How can AI help us as parents?
No. Beverly, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Yes. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So first I wanted to thank Bruce and Meg for coming, and as a parent, to know that there's resources that are holistic in these situations and that are really looking at making that connection. And I think even though Leanne, you're talking about AI, I think that Meg, and I agree that I don't think we're gonna, be able to tackle that and stop that train. But I do think that Bruce and Meg are definitely probably have seen that when connections are made physically and together, that makes big change. And one of the things I wanted to say was that what I wanted to ask Bruce, you were saying that, and it's a tricky thing for a parent, and that's what I want to figure out, because I've been to that many times where you're like, you want to give the boundaries, but you want to have the compassion and the boundaries at the same time. And that's always so tricky, because that line, and I was wondering if you could give an example of what you see works, or an example of that.
Example of setting a boundary
and giving compassion.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of parents have been at that spot.
Yeah, because I think what happens is there's a level of frustration that grows and grows and grows, right? And you're finally like, well, I even feel like, well, I tried to be nice about it, but it's like, now, I'm not going to be nice about it anymore. I'm just going, but we know that works. All it does is exasperate the problem. So I would say that whatever the boundary is we have to take responsibility for our own spirit and the way we approach and the tone that we use and the message we use. Sometimes, all of us, we have to see what doesn't work before we see does work, and I think for many parents that I work with, they've tried so many things, they see what's not working. But I will tell you the answer to it. The answer is always that love wins.
Love that.
Can you say that one more time? I didn't have good sound here. Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, I will. I would say that the answer is that love always wins.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That we stay based in love, and if we stay in that place, we end up in a good place, almost always.
Right. I agree.
And our child will feel that from us, even when we have to put the boundary in place. We do it from a place of love.
I really love that, Bruce. And Beverly, did you get your question answered?
Yes, and I think it's an answer that all parents need to hear. So I'm really happy that Bruce expressed that. And I also, Bruce, when you talked about finding in the child their place, finding the child, when they're in such a despair, is to be able to find that hope that they still have in themselves, or to find their better self, I think you said. And I think that's kind of a struggle sometimes when they just are in such despair.
You have to stay focused. And sometimes I know, because it's such a difficult situation, and people have been through so much, we have to stay focused on the part of that person that deepest, most authentic place that they come from is always calling them. No matter what they're going through, they're always being called to live in a higher way, to come from a good place, to bring their gifts to the world. I just kind of joke, but I don't joke. People laugh when I say it. Sometimes I say to, 16-year-old or a 53-year-old who's going through it, whatever it is, hey, I say, you know what? The world is waiting for you.
Judy, I think
oh no, Beverly, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say the butterfly, which what Leon says, right?
Or no, we were going to say, remember you are the point the universe is trying to make. Or isn't that?
I love that.
Yeah, well, I love that. But also, we always remember, you and I talked about, Leon says, let's see the butterfly in the child. Mm-hmm. Let's see that which they are emerging into, their best self. I didn't mean to, and I know Penelope has a question, but remember that too, Beverly, that Leon said that? I love that concept.
Yes, definitely. Yes, beautiful.
Please, Penelope. Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I was really excited to hear you speak tonight. I thought about so many things while you're talking. But wasn't it was it Lindbergh Morrow or something like that? And she said, you strive to see the person in their best, like even when they're not. And I remember there was one, Laura Markham, she does AHA Parenting, but she talks a lot about parents giving their own self-care so they can be emotionally balanced enough to meet the situation. And I appreciate the love part. And I think we have to take care of ourselves a little bit so we can have the expansion to see that, right? And then it seems that, like, I know with my son, he can be more stoic. And for him, it's humor. That would be the love in action, is we connect through humor. So how do you, I was reading this letter that this mom wrote the other day about getting her kids off phones. And she said, you know, what I did is I would just say, hey, do you want to go and do this? Like, she would always be asking them to, hey, do you want to go on a walk? And they would sort of groan actually and really not want to do it, but she sort of nudged, and then inevitably they did it. And then with time, they just actually drew less from their phone because they were engaged, you know? So it's just nice to have these ideas that we remember and to remind us to do this, you know?
I think you're on mute. You're on mute, Meg. Maybe. I'm not sure.
No.
Try it again. I can hear you now.
Okay, so one of the most important things I was ever told when I was pregnant with my first son was that my child was going to be my teacher. And if I can remember that, it's easier to remember that and come from a place of compassion, and also be more invitational, like you were just describing, Penelope. You know, when I'm invitational and, you know, is that working for you? Or, you know, why don't we try this or do that or whatever? And I love what you said about the self-care. That's a lot of what I do. I get moms in there and I'm like, what are you doing for yourself? And it's absolutely nothing. What do you find joy in? And it's like watching my kid. No, yourself. What do you do for yourself? And what happens is we get so wound up around that we can't have our lives, you know, and we lose ourselves. I have one lady right now, she's probably around 50. All the kids are grown and gone. And she doesn't have a hobby. She doesn't have a career. She doesn't know what to do. She just feels so lost. It's unreal. And so she's like a child, you know? And for me, I'm like, you should be excited. The world's your oyster. You can do anything. You know, I'm like this. And finally she left. She's like, you know what? You're right. You know? So, but it's hard to convince somebody who's, you know, so I think it's really important the younger we do that. And we're also being a good example to our kids. If we're taking care of ourselves and we're doing these things. I mean, Bruce and I are out back doing yoga together, you know, and the kids are like, you did what, you know, and, you know, you're listening to what, you know, it's good, you know, and they laughed at us because we were playing pickleball together. Now they're out there playing pickleball with us and wanting to beat us so bad. It's hilarious. And they can't. and it's just funny because there's energy with that we, again, and I love the humor piece. We're big on humor. We bring up humor, and I'll never forget, I was having all this problems with one of my sons, and I said, Bruce, can you go talk to him? And he goes out and starts cracking jokes about it and whatever, and the next thing I know, my kid's doing it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was way too serious. I'm, you know, trying to get, you know, whatever. And so shifting the energy is the thing. If it's too humorous and not being taken care of, maybe I bring it into a more serious realm. Or if it's too serious, bring it into a humorous realm. Or, you know, I allow my compassion to bring forth a message of love, and maybe they'll listen. And, you know, I was just telling Judy the other day, I mean, this is a boy man. I'm saying to myself, Bruce had to go away. and he called me and he's like, I just realized Dad was gone. Are you going to be okay at the house by yourself? What? I thought, oh my God, I have a compassionate male son. Yay. So that's what we're trying to do, right? And so, it's not perfect. And that's the other thing, giving ourselves a break when it's not going well. And I also wanted to say one quick thing for people that aren't two parents together. I was raised single family. Bruce was raised single family. There's amazing moms out there and there's amazing dads out there doing the right thing, giving it their all, and there's ways to be able to bring forth the same love and everything and see your child for who they are. And that's going to make all the difference in the world. It's going to make all the difference.
Looks like, Leon, you have a question? Excuse
Yes,
me.
I promise I won't ask a million questions, but I just love Meg so much, and she inspires me. So I just want to say that. But I would just when Penelope spoke and Meg spoke, I was reminded that a few years ago we did a e-camp for the youth. And it was a camp that had nothing to do with electronics. It had to do with the environment, with entertainment, with healthy diets. All there were all E's. I forgot all the E's.
Energy.
But, yes, energy. It was, and after 2 days within the camp, overwhelmingly the youth would come to me, Reverend Leon, can we stay another week? Because the camp was about, like Meg was saying, self-care, and there's no self-care for our youth, or to teach them self-care and how to look each other eye to eye and connect with one another. And that's what's missing. So they search for this connection via social media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just want to say that because I plan to do these camps, but I would love to do them with other organizations, because it's not about spirituality. When I talk about agape, people think, oh my God, this is religion. No, it's not. Because we're talking about universal principles. I'm not here to sell agape, but what I'm saying to you is that if we can get more self-care programs for our youth, I think it would be absolutely wonderful. And one of the reasons why I brought up AI, because I have the ear of really one of my youth who's very high tech, and this thing that he has created will take over. When I say that, because he's already have on the table, there are a lot of great big companies wanting to buy his project, and it's over $200 million they're offering for this.
Wow.
So now that I have his ear, I want to talk to him about that. How do we infuse love? How do we begin to program this technology so that we can begin to inspire, uplift, care for one another, love one another? Because many times when you're a business person, you're just infusing it with many times self-preservation and money. And, I might be overstating it, but I just wanted to see how we can work with it, because change can bring on anxiety, change for us. And social media was an enormous change for us. It could bring on fear. And so I want to know that how can we now infuse it with some of the things that is missing, that they're looking to find in these artificial things, but you're never going to find it there.
Yep. And Leon, this reminds me of what you say, and that is meet the kids where they are.
Yes,
so you might not agree with video games. You might not agree with AI. You might not agree with social media, but sit there with them while they're doing it. And, my Jilly, who I did the Judy and Jilly show with, she loved Roblox. I sat with her. Tell me what you like about it. Show me. So if they're so thrilled and thirsty for some, and we don't have to agree with it. But I love that you say that, Leon, meet them where they are. And this young child that's in your agape environment,
yes,
he's probably so thrilled that you're interested in what he's doing. And it's congratulations.
Yes.
Okay, Meg and Bruce, please tell us I know people are going to want to know how they can get a hold of you. What's the best way to be in touch with you?
Well, you can call me or text me 949-677-3760, or go to my website, meglupin.com, right?
Yep.
It's meglupin.com, but what's your phone number
Yeah.
again? 949?
Yeah, 949-677-3760. You can text me.
As put it in the chat, please.
Yeah, I am. And I'm also going to put it on the video. Once I edit this, I'll put your website and the phone number, and text and call,
Yes.
and then your website. And then for you, Bruce?
His phone is 949-677-4058.
677
4058.
4058.
And the website for my group is called Entelechy Recovery Group, entelechyrecovery.com. So it's ENTELECHY recovery.
Group. Oh, recovery.
Yeah, so Entelechy Recovery. Entelechy is a word that was coined by Aristotle, and it means the realization of potential.
So that was, do I have that correct? I put it in the chat. So this is a first time offer for our speaker series. Both Meg and Bruce are offering discounts. Bruce is offering a complimentary session with him, and Meg is offering $50 off on one of her sessions. It could be anything from her array of counseling, energetics, Beamer. Meg, do you want to say a few things about the different modalities that you employ?
Well, what's interesting is a lot of people, what I try to do is teach in my sessions, and I try to give people as much information as I can so they can go off and make it part of their lives. So I teach a lot of energetic stuff and things, and coach, as well as doing distant energy work and things like that. So if I had people calling me because their child is flipping out, I do energy work distantly and whatever, sometimes in person, depending where they live. We're in Southern California, Laguna Niguel area. So anyway, it depends what it is. Like Reverend Leon says, I meet the people where they are and try to help make their lives better,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Meg and Bruce. I'm going to edit this. It's going to be on YouTube. We'll let everybody know, and they can get their websites there and their phone numbers. They're also in the chat. We want to thank them so much for being with us today, Meg and Bruce. I love you guys, of course. So in 2 weeks, Dr. Marcia Tongle is talking about, and you're not going to quite know what this is, but it's gift education. And it's a little bit of what Meg and Bruce talked about. It's what Leon referred to. It's about finding the gift, that special purpose and energetic imprint within each child, and building the education system around that. So it's unwrapping the gift within our children in an education system. So that's Dr. Marcia Tongle. We love you guys. Are there any last comments or questions before we leave?
No, I just wanted to say it was great to see you guys. Really miss you, and please come and visit sometime soon. Okay.
Yes, miss you too.
Thanks for everything. That was wonderful.
Hey, Judy, I have a final one, and
Good.
I love you and love what you're doing, but can we put this panel together again with just youth? And I have two youth that would love to, they would love to address the parents' concerns. They're specialists in their own way. And I want to bring my AI youth that are out there in the world connecting, and they're bringing love to their gifts, bringing loves with their gifts. And I just wanted to bring them so you parents can begin to so parents can talk to them and begin to get answers. And I'm not saying we don't have the answers, but it would be nice to talk to these youth who have are out in the field working.
Leon, I'm glad you brought that up, because we just so happen to have a youth panel that's coming up in the middle of August, And we'd love to have your kids involved with it. Beverly's got some people. We've got Lainey Liberty, who is one of our speakers, who's right now in Mexico with a group of teens. So we're going to have our own teen panel in mid-August. We'll let you know when. Leon, you and I will talk about it.
Yes,
and
yes.
We'd love it if you would all promote it amongst your groups. We'll let you know. Any other parting thoughts? Thank you, Leon.
So thank you and blessings to everybody and to all
Thank you
the
all.
children. They're going to have the benefit of being around all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes,
you,
yes.
Meg. Thank you, Bruce. Love you all. Thank you
Love
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.